Definitely. So, good evening, everyone. I am Namanarullah, the president of Cosmos, the Tech Society here at IIT Madras BS. And I welcome you all to a guide to GSOC, a session by the Placement Council of IITM BS in collaboration with Cosmos and Sundarbans House. So today joining us as guest speakers are Prathamesh and Rudraksh. Prathamesh was selected as a GSOC 22 contributor at MetaBrains and is pursuing his BS in data science at IITM and also his BTech in AI at GHRCEM Pune. He loves working and talking about data, music, tech, and open source technologies. Rudraksh is a CS undergrad student with a passion for open source development. He has made significant contributions to several organizations and was selected as a mentee at KDE under SOK 23. He was also one of the top 10 contributors of the team for HackSquad 22 with an impressive 142 contributions throughout Hacktoberfest 2022. We are happy to have you, Prathamesh and Rudraksh. Now, I would request Prathamesh to please proceed with the session.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks for introducing us, Naman. He has already introduced us all. Um, so I guess we'll just first start off with our experience. Let me start with my GSOC experience first. So back in 2022, um, I applied to the MetaBrains Foundation, which is an open source organization that deals with music databases. They even have their own sort of streaming service that records your music listening history and uh, gives like insights about the history and all. So in there, I have worked with a 600 GB open source dataset that had 27 billion rows of music streaming data. My responsibility there was to clean up the data, process it, verify the integrity of the data, perform analytics on that data, improve performance and all that. So I did all of that as a part of my GSOC responsibilities. And for that, I also received 4 months of mentorship from my mentor, Alastair Porter. He guided me throughout the project. And the part that most people are very excited about, I also received about 2.4 lakh rupees in stipend. Then I think personally the most exciting part that I made some really talented friends. Like all of them were GSOCers, new GSOCers, old GSOCers, and all that. Then I think GSOC has also added a lot of reputation to my name. It has also added a lot of value to my portfolio and resume as well. So yeah, that was my experience about it. Rudraksh, would you like to share yours?
Sure. Hello, everyone. So I'm Rudraksh Karpe. I started my open source journey back in 2020, and currently I'm working as a mentee at KDE community under the season of KDE 2023 program. So at KDE, I'm preparing KDE applications like GCompress. GCompress is a educational entertainment software by KDE community, and Kate, which is a popular text editor by KDE. So I'm preparing these two applications for the Blue Angel Eco certification. This certification is awarded by the German government, and KDE's Ocular PDF Viewer was the world's first software to be certified as eco-sustainable. So in this category, we are appending this list by adding GCompress and Kate this year. So this is a completely exciting journey, and I could get this opportunity through the open source, and I'm excited to share my experiences. Apart from that, I'm getting opportunity to get my mentorship by my mentor Joseph Devokis, who is a community manager at KDE, and in the Hack Squad 2022 challenge, I could participate and contribute and make significant contributions to large-scale organizations, including Microsoft, and we made 124 valid pull requests. So that's it about me. I'll share more in the upcoming slides.
Yeah, and here's today's agenda. We'd be actually covering more than this because we went ahead and added a few more slides after writing this agenda. So yeah, it's going to be extremely information packed. I hope we are recording as well. Sure. So Rudraksh, would you like to start with what is open source and all that?
Sure. So let's get started with what is open source. The term open source, it is originally referred from the OSS. It's like open source software. So open source is a code that is designed to be publicly accessible. There is nothing is hidden. So open source software usually fosters the open exchange, collaborative participation, and rapid prototyping and transparency between the community-oriented development. So basically, all these organizations are non-profit organizations, and they're completely open for everyone. So the conclusion here is that anyone with enough skills can contribute to code and engage with these open source communities with little no barrier to entry. So you just have to come with passion and get yourself explored with the tons of opportunities. Next slide, please. So there might be a question in the mind of some folks that why open source? So with the open source, you will be getting opportunity to gain the professional experience of working with high quality, large scale, real world projects, and to learn, collaborate, and network with the global talent from the any corner of the world. And you're getting opportunity to be part of the global communities. You're getting the mentorship, and you are building your portfolio with the proof of works. So you don't have to show. Often while building resumes, people get into like the thing that what should I add to my resume? But GitHub itself is your resume, where you with the proof of pull request or the commits you or the contributes you make, you can show your portfolio, and you'll be definitely getting this opportunity to earn cool swags, goodies, and stickers with open source. And the most exciting thing about it is that you'll be earning in dollars and spending in rupees. So that's a great thing about open source. So you're completely making a difference in the community and writing a code that will be used by millions of the people worldwide. And open source creates a long-lasting connections with like-minded individuals who share the passion for technology and open source software. So it's absolutely a great thing. Next slide, please. And let's get started with starting your open source journey. So there are some prerequisites. There might be some beginners. So how should we get started? Let's see ahead. So prerequisites for getting started with open source are nothing but just Git and GitHub. So Git is a version control system. So it's not necessary that you should learn the command line interface. You can use GitHub desktop as well, but the command line is like that will get you familiar with most of the software development concepts, and it's very likely to get used. You can learn a 2-3 hours tutorial from YouTube and just get yourself started with the open source and get GitHub. So you should be familiar with a single programming language, at least one programming language like Python, C, C++, HTML, CSS, JavaScript, the web development stack, or maybe Java, or perhaps Golang. Your understanding with one of these programming language should be basic to intermediate. You don't need anything like advanced level of like skills. Even if you're a basic understanding, you will just get yourself started with open source. And definitely, we are talking about the Git, so you should be familiar with the Linux for software development. Even if you are getting familiar yourself with the basic commands of Linux, you're good to go. And the most important thing here is the Google foo. Yes, the Google foo is the ability to independently find and implement solutions to problems using documentation and internet resources out there. And this is the most important thing that you should be carrying yourself with. Yes. And how to build these skills actually. So you can participate in hackathons. Hackathons are a great way to learn in collaboration and explore the software development world. And you can build and show off your projects on GitHub. Even if you're building a small scale project, a small scale scraper or anything like that, just put it on GitHub, and it will open endless opportunities for you. There might be some startup who will be building something like that, and you'll be getting an opportunity to just connect with them, just putting it on GitHub. So GitHub is something that you should keep always updated. So, and the learning in public is something very important. You should be active on tech Twitter, or maybe post frequently on LinkedIn. Not that frequently, but you can post at your pace. Just make it active. Just that will create a long lasting impact. So getting used to Linux is something that would I personally highly recommend. You can go with a dual boot or any distro of your choice. That's a great thing. Next slide, please. So here is something very important. So uh, we know that we are all are here with the title of Google Summer of Code, but there are other programs as well in the open source. GSOC is something that is uh, largely hyped, but these other programs are also at the same level. So you should consider them as well. So these are like Google Summer of Code, which usually runs from the April to August during this period, and the applications usually start in the March 20 this year. So MLH Fellowship is the program that runs thrice a year. They have like 3 times it runs a year, and it's a great program for everyone to get yourself into the community. It's a mentorship program. So they have two programs, like the fellowship one and the prep program. The fellowship one is like a GSOC. So you'll be contributing to the participating organizations like Meta, Google Research, and Solana. And the prep program, they'll be giving you 3 weeks of mentorship. So you should check it out. Even if you're not getting into GSOC, MLH is something that you should be keeping your eye on. So Google Season of Docs. The people who are into documentation and content writing, they should take note of this program, because this program is something which pays a very high amount, like more than $5,000 of stipend in India, and it's something that is started by Google to make sure that open source should be having a nice documentation for their projects. So please look after this one as well. The LFX mentorship program. So in this program, people usually get confused with the name Linux Foundation. They consider it as something related with the Linux itself, but it is not. Actually, it has a very diversified organization in itself. So do check it out. They It's mostly about the most highly used stack I found there is Golang, and there are organizations like CNCF, Meshri. You should check out for this one as well. They also run this thrice a year. Outreachy. The Outreachy is a great program. They pay like 7,000 USD of stipend, and but for India, they are having females and transgenders only. So that's a limitation. If someone is in that category, they should check it out. The Microsoft Reinforcement Learning Fest. So this is something that is a great program for someone who is into research, and this program pays really well, like something like $10,000 of USD stipend. So that's a great program. Do check it out. The Season of KD program. So this program is a special program. Like if as we know that people start very early to getting selected into the Google Summer of Code, like in November or December. So this program usually gets started in the January of every year and runs up to the April. So I'm currently working in this program. So as you get yourself started working in this program, you're getting yourself familiar with the organization. So there are very high chances of yours to getting selected into GSOC, as KD is a very large scale organization which participates every year into Google Summer of Code. Next slide, please. And how you should be an ideal candidate for the open source. So every year, hundreds of open source organizations apply to GSOC in order to find new talent. Organizations want someone who is truly passionate about the community, who has almost enough technical skills required to pull off the project even before getting started. And you should be a good communicator. You should be proactive, and you should have a strong work ethics. and you should honor the commitments of the open source programs. That is something very important from my personal experience. You should be committed. You should don't uh, don't miss out on your commitments. You should make allowances for the busy schedules of the mentors. In some cases, the mentors might not reply for weeks, but you have to stay there, stick to it, and stick to the scenario. Improve with the honest and constructive feedbacks from the mentors, and you should always show willingness to stick around in the community for long term. That will open the endless opportunities. So next,
Uh,
I'll share. Prathamesh will share his experiences about GSOC.
yeah, so thanks, Rudraj, for the wonderful introduction to open source. So now let's get started with what GSOC is. Uh, so I just asked ChatGPT and pasted a screenshot here because I'm very lazy. But as you can see, Google's Summer of Code is an annual program sponsored by Google. Make note of the word sponsored by Google because make no mistake, you won't be working with Google. Google would be providing you opportunity and stipend and organizing this program in order to let you work with some top open source organizations. Like everyone here has heard of Media Player, that is an open source organization. Then we have Chromium, then the Linux Foundation. Um, all the top open source organizations generally apply to GSOC. This is generally conducted in your summer break, so that you will be working, or if you get selected, you will be working around for around 6 to 7 hours every day. This is like almost like a full-time program for 3 months. And yeah, you will be gaining some real world skills, making a lot of connections. You'll be contributing to the open source community. All the code that you write would be open source for the world to see and use. Yeah, so I have also jotted down 5 easy steps. Not, I would not say easy, but 5 simple steps to GSOC. If you follow all these five, um, I can easily say that you have a good chance at cracking GSOC. Okay, so the first and very obvious step, but I don't think it's obvious for everyone because I get a lot of DMs on LinkedIn and all. Some people they just like ask very irrelevant questions. So if you ask such irrelevant questions to your mentors or the organization that you are trying to get in, it will just show that you are not serious enough. So before getting started, I would say read up on the official contributor guide that is written by Google. That is a very underrated resource. Most people just skip it and go watch YouTube videos or something. So no, first follow this guide. This guide is crucial. Then since we have a lot of diversity here in the IIT Madras online degree program, I would highly recommend you to familiarize yourself with the eligibility criteria and timeline. If you are already a working professional working in tech, you might not be eligible for this. And as for the timeline, as I said earlier, we are running a little late for GSOC, but if you are already uh, ready with your project and all, if you already have a basic proposal in mind, I think this session is going to be wonderful for you. Then yeah, the most important thing, every organization that participates in GSOC has their own contributor guide. So make sure to read this contributor guide. Let me just quickly give you an example. Let's say you see all these organizations here. Let's say you want to participate in MetaBrains, because this is the organization I'm currently working with. See, they have given everything about their organization over here, like the technologies they use: Python, React, Perl, Spark, etc. Then they also have linked to their contributor guidance documentation. They have also given their communication channels over here. Make sure you utilize these channels properly. As you can see, all the projects are listed here. They also have a complete guide for GSOCers. So if you specifically want to get into GSOC at MetaBrains, they have a complete guide here. So you literally cannot miss this if you want to get into MetaBrains. And so is the case for most other organizations. Let's say you want to contribute something to Python or TensorFlow. They each have their own guides. So make sure you familiarize yourself with those guides. They have also given their communication channels and how to ask questions in those communication channels. So get used to that as well. All right, and then we have the timeline. Okay, as for the timeline, in February, on February 22, 2023, all organizations listed their projects, and the list of accepted mentoring organizations, like the organizations that actually work in GSOC, that would be working in GSOC 2023, was published around in February. That's where all people just start jumping in. So I would highly recommend you, if you want to get into GSOC, let's say you want to get into GSOC 2024, the best time to start, you can even start from now, but the ideal time would be around November, because that's the time where the competition is pretty less, and you would be having a good shot at exploring multiple organizations and finding exactly the organization and project that you like. I personally, I think, started out in the November only. I selected MetaBrains. I tried to get into their chat channel. So there are various ways you can approach an organization, and all that depends on your organization. So my particular organization worked with IRC. Some others work with Discord, some work with Slack. So yeah, I had to spend a good 2-3 days figuring out what the hell IRC was in the first place. So that's the reason you have to start early. Next, what we have here, February 22 to March 19, you can just discuss your projects with your organization. This is the time where you have to connect with the organization and actually get to know your mentors, get to know the other community members, how your community actually works and all of that. Then March 20, that was a few days ago, when the GSOC contributor application period actually began. So a lot of people just confuse this date with the time that they should start preparing for GSOC. No, if you start preparing for GSOC on March 20, there's a 99% chance that you will be failing. So yeah, you have to start early, around November or even January or February. If your organization is large, like Rudraksh is currently working in KD. KD has their other program called Summer of KD. So you have to first, most people that get selected as a GSOC contributor at KD have to first go through Summer of KD. So my organization was relatively smaller. So I just started out in January and still got it. Okay. I think we have covered this one already.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, go on.
So, like sometimes when we go on these platforms, so the workload, not just the workload, the developed skills that they themselves present to us sometimes feel overwhelming. Like for like myself, I know Python, but just in speaking of development, I don't feel my skills are that strong. So like, how would you like?
Sorry to interrupt, Tanmay, but can we please push the questions after the presentation, because then everyone would want to ask questions and we wouldn't be able to complete the presentation.
So
I hope you can be a little patient with it.
just a little more enthused. Sorry, guys.
Sure. Tanmay,
Kunal, in the time being, can you just mute all participants and lock it except Pratmesh?
Okay.
And you?
Okay, I'll do it.
Thank you.
Okay. Tanmay, I would definitely be answering your question soon. Actually, the answer to your question is coming in the next slide itself. Okay. So let's assume you have found an organization on this particular page. Let's say you selected MetaBrains Foundation, and now you want to get into this community. So what you would first do is find guides like this that your community has already written, or maybe you can go to LinkedIn and find some people who have already been selected in the organization you desire to be in. So I personally did that. I found a guy named Akshat who was a GSOC 2021 contributor, I think. And I asked him some questions, and he had given me a lot of resources, like how to connect with the organization and all of that. So I definitely do that. And getting involved with your community, find their communication channels. This is very important because you can't just be a no name. Like let me just quickly show you my organization's chat channel. They use IRC, so I just sign up on IRC cloud and see. This is where everything from GSOC to their current working and all that. You can see this guy Jasjeet. He has been contributing since November. Like even from a third person point of view, I can already see that this guy has been pretty active in community, and I can say like he has a 99% chance of getting selected into GSOC this year. So you have to build that kind of reputation. So even let's say Rio Zarevok, he will be my mentor this year if I get selected. So of course he should be knowing about my project and what I do and everything. But if even other members of the community have slight idea of who you are and how you work and all that, you will be having a pretty good chance of getting selected. Because at the end of the day, when you submit a proposal, let's say, let me share the internal workings of how you get selected from the organization side. Let's say an organization receives around 20 GSOC proposals. Out of those 20, the organizations just in themselves, they sort out all the proposals. Let's say they only like about 10 of those proposals. Then what they'll do is they'll go to their GSOC dashboard and then rank those proposals one by one. So if they rank all those 10 proposals and say, ask Google, give us 10 slots to fulfill. Out of those, if your organization is very big and reputed, Google might give them any number of slots. Like some organizations that I've seen receive even 20, 30 slots for GSOC. That's quite a lot. But in case of my organization, I think in 2022, around 12 or 13 people applied, with proper good proposals, and out of them, 7 or 8 were selected because Google only could provide 7 or 8 slots or something like that. So yeah, build a good reputation. And as Tanmay said, getting started can be extremely overwhelming. These their Git repositories are extremely huge. You might not be able to figure out on your own what the hell you are exactly supposed to do. So for that, I would just say first start reading their documentation and all. If they have a GSOC guide, organizations generally mention in their GSOC guide what they'd like new contributors to start doing. Maybe you can just first clone the Git repository that you are interested in. Start out in your personal computer. Your first pull request doesn't have to change the world. You just have to find extremely easy issues to solve, right? Like let's say if they have some documentation, if there's a full stop missing in the documentation, you can just go and add the full stop and then merge the pull request for that as well. That is a very valid contribution. Then maybe you can level up a little bit. If they have a web page, there's an HTML error, you can maybe go ahead and fix that. You have to slowly build your way up into the ecosystem. You cannot directly just start hitting the main goals of the project. That's just not possible if you are a beginner. All right, and then for building a good reputation in the community, I would say be early, be consistent, talk to your community members every day if possible. Then you have to demonstrate your passion. I think one of the biggest factors that made sure I got selected was that I was able to demonstrate my passion for this organization. So back in high school, I used to do a lot of music production, DJing, and all that. And there's a product that MetaBrains builds. It's called the Music Brains Pi card. I used to use that a lot for cleaning up my MP3 tracks and all. So I had mentioned that as well, just so that they knew my relation with this organization went a long way in the past, and that I'd be eager to contribute in the future as well. Then the next thing, you have to be proactive. You have to find action items for yourself. Maybe ask questions if you get stuck, but mostly you will be on your own. So be proactive. And as Rudraksh said earlier, be respectful of your soon to be mentor's time and schedule. These guys are extremely busy. Like my mentor, I have been trying to get a hold of him for the last 3 days. It's like a 3 commit PR that he has to review, but he hasn't even been getting time for reviewing my short PR. So yeah, be respectful of their time. Uh, and yeah, you have to select a project. So on your GSOC dashboard, actually, in a single year, you can submit up to 3 proposals, right? That is 3 different projects for which you write the complete description and proposal. You can submit up to 3 proposals, but I would only recommend you to pick one single project and give it your all. You can't put your eggs in different basket and expect all of them to hatch. You have to give your time, energy, and focus to a single project first, or maybe 2 at most. So yeah, don't take that risk. Select a single project and give it your all. Yeah, and as I said earlier, most projects require more skills than you might have, and that's completely okay. The project I applied to, I think I applied to the project near the end of my second year. So at that time, I barely had some knowledge of Python. I barely had some knowledge of like pandas. I had made some previous web scraping projects and all of that. And the project that I applied to required me to have skills like firstly Python, then PostgreSQL. I was barely aware of SQL at that time. Then they required Apache Spark and TypeSense. So yeah, out of these 4 required skills, I only had one and a faint idea of the second one. But I still applied and still got in. So that's completely all right, because in GSOC, you know, why people learn a lot in their GSOC periods. That's because they have to learn on the fly. You won't be equipped completely with the knowledge that you need to complete the projects, but you will have to Google every 5 minutes or so. Yeah, I literally filled up hundreds of tabs during my GSOC contribution period, and honestly, that's the best part about GSOC. You get to learn so much. Uh, and yeah, once you have a project, once you have started working on the project, make sure you take notes of the following, like the problem statement of the project. What exactly is the problem that you're trying to tackle? Then what solution do you propose for that problem statement? And then what more skills you will be needing to acquire to implement the solution? Then what skills you already have? What proof you have for the uh, skills that you claim to have? And if you have any prior contributions or pull requests that you have merged for GSOC, not just for GSOC, in open source, for open source in general, you can show off that as well. I personally had zero open source experience before getting selected in GSOC, but if you have any prior experience, that's just cherry on top. Yeah, once you have a project selected, you have to work on a proposal. This is like one of the most overhyped things about GSOC. The proposal writing part is actually the easiest part. The hard part, I would say, is these first 4 steps: getting started, finding organization, getting involved with the community, selecting and working on a project, and then comes the last part, that is working on a proposal. If you skip the first 4 steps, uh, I can basically guarantee that you won't be selected, even if you are a god tier programmer like Linus Torvalds or something. So yeah, first of all, I would say, if you are writing a proposal for your project, check if your organization already has a proposal template. So most organizations already have a template for their proposal. So check it out and follow it like Bible. Like answer all the questions that they have asked in the proposal, um, and make sure your proposal adheres to all the requirements that your organization has asked. Then, okay, I've covered this one already. I also have an example of my GSOC proposal that got me selected. So this is actually quite long. I think it was like 20 pages or something. You don't have to make your proposal that long. That's totally not recommended. The reason why my proposal is this long is because I was working on a data science project, and in that project, even we were not sure what the actual problem statements were. Um, so yeah, generally you have to keep your proposal between 3 to 8 pages. You have to include points like abstract. If you have any diagrams, make sure to include the diagrams. List out all your problem statements like I have listed one by one. Then your project goals, what goals you want to achieve at the end of the GSOC period. More diagrams just so that it's easier to read. Then I have proposed a solution. Then there's some more questions that our organization required us to answer, like why would I like to work with MetaBrains? Just so if you answer these questions correctly, they'll know that you are passionate about their organization. So yeah, make sure to answer such questions with attention, give it your all. Then the most important part is the project timeline. You have to, so GSOC is basically a 12-week long program that rounds to about 3 months. So you basically have to give a plan of every week. Like if I get selected in week 1, I will do this. In week 2, I'll do that, etc. Everything up to 12 weeks. Like it's not necessary that you follow this plan even after getting selected. You can make changes. Like after getting selected, my college started early, so I had to pivot a little and I had to extend my timeline to um, 4 months instead of 3 months. So yeah, but you have to first specify this timeline. It will just show that you exactly know what to do in the project. Apart from that, if you have any other time commitments, make sure to list them out. Like yeah, would you be taking any classes? Would you be moving to somewhere else? Would you be graduating from your college? Would you be getting married? Whatever time commitments you might have, make sure to list them in your proposals so that your mentors don't get surprised when you get selected and suddenly ask for a 2 week holiday. Okay, 2 weeks is actually quite a lot. I would not recommend a 2 week long holiday. And yeah, so after you write the proposal, who do you think selects your proposal? So Google has nothing to do with these proposals. The ones that select your proposals are your mentors and your community members. So it totally makes sense to discuss your proposal thoroughly with your mentor and get some feedback on it and improve continuously on the feedback based on the feedback. So yeah, here's a general structure of a good proposal as we discussed from my own example. You can just quickly read it once. Or maybe read it once we share the PPT and all. Yeah, some more tips for building a proposal. Start writing your proposal at least 2 to 3 weeks before the deadline. That will give you time to iterate on the proposal and discuss your ideas with your mentor and other community members. Then you have any extra ideas apart from the ones listed by your mentor or anything. Make sure to include those as well, even if they are ridiculous. That will just show your ability to think creatively on your own. I'd say also refer to other proposals that got selected in your organization. LinkedIn is the best way to ask for such proposals. Then also include a lot of diagrams, flowcharts. If you are working with databases, include database tables. If you are working with UI UX designs, include those mockups as well. And also make sure that it's that the proposal is also comprehensible for someone who is unfamiliar with your project. Like even if you show your project proposal to someone outside of your organization, they should be able to read it and at least have a basic idea of what the project does. That will just show clarity that you have project in your mind. Again, ask for feedback and all. That was about it for the proposal part. And now I have some more bonus tips that most people don't share. So first of all, start early. That's a given. Then try to interact with your community members daily. That will show your passion. Then start easy. Start with simple typing errors, HTML errors. Add some documentation maybe. And another thing that most organizations have their own, like they have separate set of basic issues. Like your organization might have some advanced issues, but they also specifically take out some easy to solve issues for beginners. So yeah, you can try to hunt down those issues and maybe try to tackle them. These issues are generally extremely easy to solve, and that will just get you in the workflow. And another thing is get rid of your imposter syndrome. That's like one of the biggest tips in here, because what is imposter syndrome? First of all, imposter syndrome basically is like when you let's say are applying for GSOC, and then you feel that you are not good enough, that you don't have the skills. You might want to just go ahead and finish just one more course and watch one more tutorial and wait just 6 months and then apply. But yeah, just get rid of that imposter syndrome. uh, you will have an opportunity every year. Make sure to take it. You can apply for as many times as you might want. And please don't give up in between, like I was about to do. You Can you read this quote? Keep going, you miss all the shots that you don't take. So this advice was given to me by my mentor, like around this time only, last year in March, I think. I was about to give up on my project, and I was not gonna write the proposal because I thought that I was just not enough. I won't be getting selected because I was just a second year student with a basic knowledge about Python and all. But my mentor just said, keep attempting, because if you don't submit the proposal, you are going to get rejected anyway. Just give it a shot and see if you get selected or not. And I actually took the shot, and it changed my life. So make sure you do it as well. That's the best advice I can give. And yeah, all the content that we covered in the presentation is already written on my blog. You can check it out over here. It has all the details that I couldn't cover in this presentation. So make sure to read it from start to end. I think it also has proposal tips as well. Yeah, so definitely try that out. And yeah, that was it for me. Do we have anyone in the chat? Lakshya, Naman, can someone please take over from here? The QR again, please. Here's the QR. Thank you for the appreciation, Naveen. Yeah, and if you guys want to connect with me on LinkedIn and all, you can just follow these URLs. Let's see if you have any questions.
Yeah, so everyone, I think we can start asking questions. So all those who want to, ask their questions, they can raise their hands and I can call them out one by one. But before that, I already had received a lot of questions from you guys in the G form. So I think Prathamesh, you can answer those first. I have already shared the questions with you.
Yeah, definitely. Let me get those questions really. Okay, so the first question is, what is the main thing to keep in mind when drafting your application, and how to make your application stand out? That's a great question. The main thing you have to keep in mind while drafting your application is that you have to follow the first 4 steps mentioned in this tutorial first. Like you have to do the community bonding part and all. Then next you have to make sure that your application is not too long. Don't make it too long and incomprehensible. It should be like short, sweet, and brief. It should explain all the points that you are trying to convey. It should explain the problem statement. Let me just cover it real quick. Yeah, you can just um, look out for this structure. Mention the essentials like your GitHub profile, name, email, your time zone, maybe, because that's a very real problem. Maybe if your mentor lives in the US and you are living in India, that will be 2 completely different time zones. So you'll have to figure out that as well when you would be meeting, when you will be discussing and all of that. Then the next question is how to choose your organization wisely. So I would just give one answer for that. If you see an organization and if you think instantly that even if I don't get selected in GSOC for this organization, would I be still working with them? Is there a problem statement, or are their goals still valid to me? Like when I saw MetaBrains first, I was instantly like, yeah, this is the organization that I want to work in, because they work with music production and all that. So I was pretty passionate about that, and I said to myself that I can maybe try to get into this organization because all the stuff that they work with is already something that I am very passionate about. So yeah, if you feel the same about the organization you are trying to get in, I think you have chosen the right organization. What are some things that you had to learn the hard way, and what are some pitfalls that can be avoided? Yeah, I think that was a yeah, I think I almost left my project before submitting a proposal, because I was too scared that I would get rejected. So that was a near miss. I almost missed my opportunity, but please take your shot, I would say. Can you share some resources or tools that you recommend for people who want to get involved in open source contribution? So yeah, if you want to get involved into open source contribution, I would say first of all, follow some good content creators. Like I'd say, let me just type it into the chat. We have first of all Kunal Kushwaha. Then we have Harkirat Singh. These are some Rudrash, was it Harkirat Singh or someone else? I think Harnoor Singh was it. Yeah, so maybe just follow these 3 content creators. They have some great content about open source and all. There was another friend of mine that I met through GSOC. He has been making some pretty good content about GSOC as well. What is his name again? I forgot. Yeah, I'll just include it in the email that you would be getting after this session. All the resources and everything. For now, let's jump on the next question.
Okay, so guys, you can start raising hands or type your questions in the chat box. So right now we have Sarthak Chaudhary. Please go ahead. Sarthak, you can speak now. Okay.
If Sarthak's not there, we
next
can.
Question.
Sarthak says he doesn't have permission, mic permission.
Okay, let me just give that. Okay, Sarthak, you can unmute now.
Hi Prathimesh, hi everyone. I have a very basic question. Like, let's suppose the idea has to be like groundbreaking, or it can be a very simple idea to to get into GSOC.
Yeah. So what exactly are you talking about here? Like the project
let's suppose I have an idea, but it already exists. Okay, but I'm giving a more better solution. then is it a good idea or not?
Yeah, okay. So from your point of view, you have a great idea, and you would like to implement that idea somehow into the open source domain, right? So, but in GSOC, what we have here is we have multiple organizations that would like you to interact with them and submit some solutions to their own problems, right? So let's say even I had an idea of building an open source music database. Okay, so I started looking out for such databases, and then I suddenly found that Music Brains already exists, which basically does everything that I wanted to do and does it better. So what I did, I just hunted down Music Brains, and it was already listed for GSOC 2022. So I was like, yeah, I already have my idea. I will just go to this organization and see if they can implement this idea and what they think about this idea. So my idea was actually pretty basic. So um, as myself, like, no, let's not get around with this idea. And then I started uh, looking into other ideas that my organization had already listed. So let me show you an example real quick.
By the way, I got it. I understand it now.
Okay, okay.
I have one more question. Like,
Mhm.
how can I know that if I have an idea, how can I know that it already exists somewhere? Like, is there some,
Mhm.
do you have any
So
suggestion for that?
yeah, for that you will just have to do some Google foo. That is open like 100 tabs of Google,
Okay.
and then search if your idea already exists somewhere. If you find
Okay.
any leads, go approach them on LinkedIn, Twitter. In open source, a lot of guys use Twitter and all.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Actually, you was talking about music. I'm also a music producer.
mhm.
I'm doing it since like 6 years, and I
Oh,
also
seriously?
have a project, and it's revolve around music. Basically, it's purely about
Mhm.
music. So it's about like creating a system which can segregate songs on the basis of genres.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah, I had the same idea too, actually.
okay, you had the
So it
same idea.
already exists. I mean, the base of it exists. That is in a Music Brains PyCard. So
Okay.
maybe next year you can submit a proposal at MetaBrains and explain your idea.
Okay, so
Uh,
if I do this idea only, then it only already exists. Then it will be like in vain, right? So I have to come up with
no,
something else.
not completely. If your idea already exists in the open source domain, you can maybe improve upon the idea. Like because let's say Music Brains PyCard already exists. Maybe they
Okay.
have not implemented all your ideas that you may already have for it. So maybe you can get into MetaBrains and suggest them. I have these particular ideas and I would like to implement them in Music Brains PyCard. So you
Okay.
can go about that way. And if your idea already exists in the public sector,
Yeah.
let's say there is already a paid software that exists for the work that you are trying to do, you can maybe approach an organization that works in the music domain, let's say MetaBrains, and let's assume they don't have PyCard. You can just go and suggest them that I have this particular idea and I would like to implement it in the open source domain. Can I do it with you guys? And if they like the idea, you'd be in.
Okay, I have one last question. Like
Sure.
in if I talk about GSOC, so there are also projects like who are like hardware oriented, because I
Mhm.
have done robotics. I was into embedded systems, so there are like projects who are hardware oriented somewhere.
Uh, First of all, I am not an expert in the hardware domain, so I can't really say. But I think there are IoT related projects as well. GSOC. Let me just confirm real quick. You can just go ahead and search like IoT, and yeah, you can see these organizations like Microelectronics Research Lab, Open Robotics.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, so maybe you can see if they have any projects around that,
Yeah.
and you can see for yourself if you get somewhere with it.
Yeah. Thank you so
Maybe
much,
find.
Prathamesh. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Thank you, man.
Okay. So we have one question from Sahad Singh. They ask, is it too late now for this year?
I would say, unfortunately, yes, it's a little too late for this year because once you find a project, it's actually kind of hard to get to know around what the project is about find the actual problem statement, and then come up with your own plan on how to tackle it. So that takes like at least a month or two. In my case, it took 3 months because I was a newbie. So yeah, it takes some time. But till then, I think you can try for other programs. Like we have the Major League Hacking program coming up very soon. Apply for that. Then the LFX program, LFX mentorship program. Apply for that. And yeah, just keep getting your feet wet with open source. And I think next year you will definitely have a good shot for GSOC.
All right. I hope that answers the question. Next up, we have Naveen. Naveen, you can unmute yourself and ask your question.
Hi guys, am I audible?
Yes.
Yeah, Naveen, you're audible.
Hi, Prathamesh and Naveen. First of all, a very big thank you for such a marvelous presentation.
Thank you, Naveen.
It was with a good perspective. So I have one main question, that is what the language of project should be. Should it be purely business oriented, like with the filled with technical jargons and complexity, or it should be something like created that describes your point, but is written with simple English words that are easy to understand, which will have a more effect on the mentor while reading the application of the proposal, and both actually.
Yeah, so your proposal should be definitely easy to read for someone who is not familiar with the project. Let's say you write your project abstract. Actually, mine was pretty bad, to be honest. Most people still don't understand what I have done in GSOC because of this bad abstract. And whenever people ask me to explain my project, I just completely deviate from this and start speaking something else. So that's not a good sign. So include the technicals, specific things, the specific technical things and the words in it. But definitely also try to make it as easy to understand as possible. So let's say even if you say, Dad, I got selected in GSOC, your dad will say, what are you doing in GSOC? You just show him your proposal, and if he understands it, that's a pretty good way to understand if your proposal is comprehensible or not.
And with the application,
can you please repeat?
and with the application, should it be like a similar manner?
Yeah, so your proposal is basically your application. Apart from, you have to submit this proposal on your GSOC page. Let's see code. Yeah, so you can just go to your profile, GSOC profile. You just fill in these details. I think you don't have to add anything like mind blowing in here. No one is gonna read it except for Google. Where is it exactly? Not able to figure it out. Okay, maybe because I got selected last year, it is not showing the same questions that a newcomer might have. So yeah, these questions that you'll be asked some basic questions, but they are just survey questions, so you can answer them properly or skip it. That's your choice. But your proposal should be top tier because the people from your organization would be reading your proposal.
And I have a last question. Actually, I got confused in the presentation that what are actual work with in the GSOC? Is it to develop new solutions for the company, or is it to work to improve their already existing problems?
Yeah, so you can do both. So basically, in GSOC, you have to apply for a particular project. So most organizations have their projects listed around February. You can just take a look at those projects and see which projects you actually like. If you like any one of those projects, you can just directly apply to it. Or alternatively, if you have a better idea, you can just apply. You can just discuss that idea with the parent organization and see where it goes. But if your organization already has listed like 20 different problem statements, maybe those 20 problem statements are at a priority, and your new idea might not get a priority. If you are like a very old and visiting member of the community already, they might consider your proposal. But if you are just like go to a new organization and propose a new idea, they might not consider it. So yeah, there's a risk, but you can propose a new idea as well.
And I have one last question that it's something like that. Tanmay asked that when should we consider that we ourselves are ready? Personally, I am new in tech, so my language, my knowledge in Python is completely zero. So at what point should I consider, yeah, I'm capable enough, I should apply for that? Ignore my imposter syndrome. After that point, what should be that point will be in our coding language, in
Okay,
our
like
learning?
yeah. So there are some basic things that you have to take care of before getting started with GSOC. I would say, first of all, you have to learn Git and GitHub, not like advanced Git and GitHub, just basic Git commands, how to submit pull requests and all. You have to first make sure that you know all of that, or you won't be able to do anything in GSOC, because all of open source runs on Git and GitHub. And after that, you have to have some basic to intermediate programming skills. Like even if you start with basic, if you spend a few months at your organization trying to tackle some issues, you might be able to learn on the fly. So, and if you don't have those skills at all, I would suggest that you build your own personal projects. Like I would say that's a pretty good prerequisite. Like if you open your GitHub and if you see 2-3 good projects on your profile, I think that's a pretty good spot to be in before getting into GSOC. And yeah, some familiarity with Linux. Yeah, go ahead.
I was asking, at what point should we consider, yeah, this is an intermediate level of programming, like we are learning, so we don't know what we know what easy is, and we know what the hard is, but we would be confused. I personally would confuse it. What we consider the middle is,
Yes.
what is the
So
intermediate level?
there is no specific point at which you would ever feel that you are ready for GSOC. Your imposter syndrome will always be behind your back, and that's a fact. So whenever the opportunity comes, just take it. That would be my suggestion, because once you clear it, you will just feel like, yeah, I could have maybe even got selected last year.
Thank you, sir. That's all of my questions. Sorry for taking so much of time.
No, it's all right.
Right. Next we have Tanmay. Also, guys, let's keep one question per person. We are running out of time and we'd like to wrap up by 8:15. Tanmay, if you can unmute yourself.
Yeah, I think regarding the projects, it's pretty clear that choosing the projects that they have given is a better choice. And I think that's very agreed on. My question is to both Prathamesh and Rudraksh. Like, since we have, you have not only listed GSOC, but also other platforms that are open source, do you feel that preparing on a same particular that project that is for GSOC, will that help in us getting in other platforms also, or that every platform gives its own problem statements?
Yeah, Rudraksh, would you like to take up this question?
Yeah. So actually, as you are asking about the preparation level of the same preparation level for GSOC and other programs, right? Hello, am I audible?
Yeah, you are
we
audible.
can hear you.
Yeah. So moreover, like if you prepare for like in general, then you can clear almost all of the open source programs. Like the tech stack you develop, almost like if you are familiar with the Python, then you will find the same tech stack with the MLS fellowship. You will find some projects with the same tech stack, and even in the Linux Foundation. And even if you go further, you have some familiarity with the reinforcement learning. Then even with the same tech stack, you can apply for like Microsoft Reinforcement Fest, or even in KD, you can find some projects similar to the tech stack. So basically, you should be familiar with the basic programming language, and you should be good at it, that you can solve some problem, some real world problem, or the issues that organizations is facing. So once you have that enough understanding of programming language, then I think you can do it.
Yeah, and I would also like to add one more thing in this, that your GitHub is your everything in open source, your GitHub profile. So make sure you have, if you are getting started with open source, make sure you host your own projects on your GitHub. Make sure you have a good and clean commit history for your project. Make sure you are adding a README file, you are adding some screenshot of your project, not just code. Um, Create a decent GitHub profile first, and I think that would really get you places. And then after that, you can just start adding your PRs and all that. And once you have a good profile ready, I think any program would be happy to have you.
I guess he's not having mic access.
Okay, let's move on. Rishabh, you can unmute yourself.
Hello, I'm Rishabh, and my question was from Prathamesh and Vivaksh both. So I wanted to ask, like I'm in my third semester right now, and like I have basic Python, HTML, CSS, JavaScript skills. So like, am I too late for starting all of this? And what was your strategy to cope up with lack of skills while you were doing projects for GSOC?
Yeah, like you are definitely not late. You are actually early, because even I started. There is a funny story. Back in the COVID days, we got admission in our college. Our first year ended in like 6 months, and I was like scared a lot. Like, what would happen to my career if the first year just flied by in 6 months? What would happen in the future? At that point, I was really scared. So in third semester itself, I just started learning about data science and all. That's when I took admission in the IIT Madras online degree program as well. And then in fourth semester, in around 4 or 5 months, when I was like, let's explore some internship programs and all. That's when I heard of GSOC. I said, at that point, remember that I only had about 4 to 5 months of experience in building a few things and all that. But I was still like, let's just give it a shot. And when I actually tried taking the shot, then I again started rigorously preparing in the next 4 or 5 months, and then I finally got selected into GSOC as well. Does that answer your question? Or did I deviate too much?
I think it does. Okay, Tanmay has raised their hand again. I think he has one more question. So I think that will be a last question. Other questions, if anybody has, I think you can directly message Prathamesh and he'll be happy to help out.
Yeah, definitely. Rishabh has raised a hand. We can have him.
And also, like, what was your strategy to coping with the lack of skills while you submitted your proposal and everything?
All right. Yeah, that was the second part of the question that I missed. Sorry for that. So to cope up with the lack of skills, in my proposal while applying, I had mentioned that let me just show you the proposal real quick. In the end of the proposal, I had said that I am not very familiar with Linux. I'm not very familiar with SQL, and I am not very familiar with Apache Spark and all that. So I just said that I'd be doing some Coursera courses alongside, and I had also listed a few folks in the organization itself that I'd be asking doubts related to these specific uh, technologies. And then again, while working with the project in the first few months, I had already proved that all the skills that I didn't have, I was very capable of picking up those skills on the fly while working on the project. So yeah, there's two parts to it. One is trust. They see you are capable. That's great. And secondly, you have to specify how exactly do you plan on taking up the skills while working on your project. And as far as the picking up skills part goes, you can just build some projects. You can read documentation for the technology you are trying to pick up, watch some tutorials, and get started.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Yeah,
Thank
welcome.
you so much, everyone, and thanks to Prathamesh and Rudraksh for such an amazing talk. Now let's move on to the placement council. Will now present the vote of thanks to both the speakers.
Hi, everybody. I'm Lakshraj from the Placement Council. First of all, thank you, Naman and Kunal. Kunal is right now not with us. He's busy in Paradox meeting, but thank you, Naman and Kunal, for arranging this session in such a short time. I asked you to arrange this session last Friday, and you were able to deliver by Wednesday. And in the midst of your own house introduction and club introduction session. So thank you. Thanks again, Prathamesh and Rudraksh, for doing this wonderful session and actually explaining the nitty-gritties behind how to have a successful application, because this is not these points are not shared in the market. This is like what you say, that this is a guarded secret, this is the intellectual property, and this you have shared with all these students in the BS degree program. I have attended a couple other GSOC sessions about applications and all of that, but these points were not explained. Actually, they were not even told. And the points that you have and the points which they used to tell, you have explained it in a much greater detail. And since you have a blog, so people will be able to go back to your blog and will be able to refer. First of all, let me tell you something about myself. As a lot of you guys, you might be doing this degree as a second degree. Some of you might be doing this degree full time. But for me, this is my second degree after I had graduated as a mechanical engineer from IIT Silchar. But I was not a good mechanical engineer, so I got a job in IT at Accenture. I was not a good developer at Accenture, so I was shafted before COVID. Tried a lot of things, prepared for civil service and all of that. But in the end, you see that in IT, there's a lot of scope for growth, and you'd be able, and if you're a curious person, that you'd be able to learn constantly, work on new skills. But even while doing this degree program, I did this degree program with a motive that whatever shortcomings that I have had when I was getting into my career, I would be able to fulfill that by learning the concepts of computer science and data science from the first principle onwards. But it's not about just learning. It's also about implementing, applying, and positioning yourself in the community so that you will be able to see that where your skill sets lie with respect to other people, other students in the country who are also studying what you are studying, and the professionals who are entering the market, and especially and established professionals as well. Now, this platform, GSOC, is a very good way to be able to test your skills and learn alongside other people. Otherwise, while doing this degree program, you're just on your own. You're watching the lectures from a 16-inch screen and then preparing for the assignments and the exams and doing the projects. But it's what all the other 20,000 folks in the degree program are doing. What is going to position you differently when you're going to be sitting for placements? When you participate in some competitions, when you contribute to open source, you put yourself out in the community, and this also helps you get noticed by recruiters. Right now, while I'm planning for the placement process, while I'm approaching the companies, I'm talking very proudly about the kinds of projects that students are currently doing in the app dev and BDM projects, how they are solving a problem for real businesses by using their data, and how they are implementing the concepts which they are learning from the classes. Now, now that's what I'm saying, but you guys would be the better better seller for your skill set by participating in competitions and by participating in open source. So that's why I know that Prathamesh has said that it might be too late, but even now it's not too late to actually explore the kinds of ideas which are being hosted in GSOC. So, and all these companies which are right now at GSOC, they would come back again next year for more applications. So what you guys can do is that you can go to the website which Prathamesh should be listing, or you can just search for Google summer of code and try to see which all companies are there, what all ideas they are trying to solve, which domains are they in, what tech stack do they require, and start working on the proposal. Even if your proposals might not be as detailed as Prathamesh, but at least you have started on something, and then you can try to work on it. If you are feeling adventurous enough, just submit a proposal. As Prathamesh said, and as Michael Jordan had said once, you miss all the shots you don't take. And as Jürgen Klopp said a couple of weeks ago, if you're going to fail, then fail in the most beautiful way. So just start working, and I invite Prathamesh and Naman to build an open source community under Cosmos, where people who want to pick up the skills in open source and want to participate in more of these ventures and competitions, and hopefully represent IIT Madras BS degree program and win some laurels for us, they would be able to do so. And as a placement counselor, I would be supporting, and my team would be supporting in any manner that you need, so that going forward, you guys would be able to have a great career path ahead. And that's not just for software developers or data scientists or researchers. Everybody has to start somewhere. And I think this is a good platform for all of you guys to start. So thank you again, Prathamesh. Thank you, Naman. And thank you, Rudrash.
Thank you.
So I might.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Okay. Thank you so much, Lakshay. For everyone, all those who missed some part of this session, we'll be uploading the entire recording of the Zoom meeting onto YouTube. And we'll also email everyone the slides that Prathamesh had shared by the end of this week. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining in. And I know we are already over time, so let's quickly wrap up. Thank you so much.